Hello, and welcome to Pique My Interest, the show dedicated to creativity. My name is Scoob Decker, and I am an artist, and your host. Pique My Interest is an exploration of art across North America in meeting some incredible artists, learning about their craft, and exploring what makes them create. Welcome to Pique My Interest. Hello, and welcome to Pique My Interest. I am currently in Honolulu, Hawaii, sitting in the dressing room of Lei Aloha, which we will get into, with this incredible artist. How are you doing today?
Mika, I'm doing well.
Excellent. And please introduce yourselves. What is your name and where are you from?
My name is Mahealani Mika. I'm born and raised here on the island of Oahu, up in the mountains in an area called Alava Heights.
And please pique our interest. What is your craft?
I am a hula practitioner, so we like to say po'e hula or a hula person.
And a dancer, director, teacher, all of the above?
Yes.
And what is your specialty within hula?
My specialty within hula, I would say, well, that's kind of difficult actually to say a specialty, but I would say for me, just honing in on, I'm a dancer first, so always sticking to my art and my craft as far as movement and being a dancer, and then from that comes the ability to create and choreography, ability to teach. So I would say my specialty is actually always coming back to being a dancer and then letting all the things grow from there.
And as I've talked about in my podcast before, I don't necessarily think art is something to be judged, but this is something that at some point does get judged every once in a while. So what makes your hula dancing different or above other hula dancers?
I do think for me, as far as when I dance myself, I pay a lot of attention to the musicality. Hula is really based upon the words or the poetry. That's the foundation of the movement. However, for me, I take that as the foundation, and then I love to just be very one with the music. So musicality will influence me in the way that not just the maybe emphasizing certain motions, or holding certain things out. When the musician or the singer takes a breath, I breathe, when they exhale, I exhale. And so I feel like that's something that kind of sets for myself, my hula apart. And that also, that musicality influences the emotion part of it. And so a little signature of my style, I think, is I'm a little known for my emotions and how I express it, like the facial expressions. Yeah,
we'll get a little bit into that expression later, but I am wanting to get a little bit into your background. Do you have any education in hula? Is it taught at an early age in Hawaii? And what really was your upbringing that wanted you to become a creator?
Yes, hula is taught from the time we're keiki or children here. So I started dancing at 5 years old. But before that, I was always exposed to it because I have two older sisters, and my mom, my aunties, my older sisters all danced hula. So I was always around it. And so when I became, the age where a hālau or a school would accept me into class at 5, and my dad signed me up for hula, and I've been in hālau or in a discipline training for hula since the time I was 5 years old. So yes, hula is definitely taught in hula schools or hālau, and it's taught within families as well, but in a hālau it was very there every week on a curriculum, a hula curriculum basically. And I've been dancing ever since I was 5 years old.
Was there a moment in your upbringing while you were dancing kind of just for fun that you went, no, this is what I'm going to do. This is my calling?
This is what I'm going to do forever was, I love hula so much, and it's where I feel like my true authentic self is when I'm dancing. Therefore, I know I'm going to do hula forever. I don't know myself without hula. It shaped how I view the world, the lens that I view the world. And so I could never not have hula in my life. So I always knew that. But as far as doing it as what turned into a career, I never envisioned that for myself. I never thought like, oh yes, I'm going to do this as a career. I just know I was going to do hula forever. And then things kind of ended up falling in line and aligning, where I feel like hula chose me, and hula brought me into, okay, this is your kuleana, or your responsibility is to come on this path now with hula, influence people, teach, perpetuate, continue, travel worldwide, and be able to represent hula. So I feel like hula brought me onto a path where one thing kind of opened up another thing, and then now I have a school in Tokyo, and then now I'm like directing the show, so I feel like hula definitely pulled me into that path.
Yeah, and I love coming here to Hawaii with Pique My Interest. I'm learning so much about the Hawaiian culture. It is so inviting, so welcoming, and they just want you to learn about their culture.
Yes.
Hula is huge in Hawaii. What does hula mean to Hawaii?
Hula is Hawaii, and that's a part of it is mea Hawaii, or Hawaiian things. It's the identity of Hawaii, so we always say no Hawaiians, no Hawaii. No Hawaiian people, there's no Hawaii. No Hawaii in the land, there's no Hawaiian people. We're one and the same. So all the aspects of our culture, whether it be lei making, the music, surfing, paddling, fishing, farming, hula, it's all a part of the identity of who we are as Hawaiians. And over time, it kind of gets separated out, and you have, but hula is Hawaii. So it belongs to Hawaii. It was created here in Hawaii by Hawaiians. And hula is our only dance form originally. That's our expression in our body movement. That's how Hawaiians express. Hula is a Hawaiian movement.
Yeah.
And
it's so unique. You can pick it out anywhere. It's got so much fluidity and so much movement and a lot of hips and a lot of waving. And I learned very recently that it's choreographed to mostly words.
Yes.
Not necessarily the music, but that's where I think the Mika twist comes in a little bit, is you have a lot of that music inspiration.
Yes.
And going off of that, you have been Miss Hula 2010. And to me, that says a little bit of success in hula. Do you consider yourself successful? And what is success in hula?
I do consider myself successful, because to be able to be chosen to represent, my ohana, my family, my kumu who taught me. So with the Miss Aloha Hula title, you cannot choose to enter that by yourself. Your teacher has to choose you to enter that. So it's not like say a pageant, for example, where okay, I want to run for, and then I'm gonna enter and do it.
Pay your fees and get in.
Yeah. All Miss Aloha Hula contestants are not there by our own doing. So we have to be chosen. And each year, the hālaus, or the schools that compete in the Merry Monarch Hula Festival, which is our Olympics of hula, the Miss Aloha Hula solo competition is a part of that competition. So each kumu is a teacher, each kumu can choose one solo representative out of their group that's performing. And then that is the Miss Aloha Hula contestant, for that year from that school. So that's the process of even being chosen to compete in that, let alone to be able to win, be chosen to win that title. So in that way, I consider myself successful, because I was able to, dedicate my time, my years of hula dedication, and do something well enough that my kumu saw something in me to say, okay, I think you can represent me, my lineage of learning, all of your hula sisters, and your hālau,
right,
and your ohana, and whatever my song was about, even representing everything that it talked about. So to me, that feels like success. So whether I won or not was not the success. It was the actual being chosen to represent that made me feel like, okay, I feel successful in being, a good haumana, a good student of hula.
And then because of your skills and your dancing, you were able to become the representation of all of hula, all of Hawaii. Like, that is incredible.
Yeah.
So thank you for pushing that a little bit, pushing your artistry and showing the world what you can do. Once you get to a competition, what are judges looking for? Like I said, I always find it odd that art sometimes gets judged, and in an art form that's very isolated on an island. How is that a competition?
Hawaiians actually, back in ancient Hawaii, love to compete. Competitiveness, we have a competitive nature about us, and so competition always existed in Hawaii through different aspects. And so yes, in hula we do have competitive hula. Not every school believes in competitive hula, so not every hālau participates in that, which is totally fine. The things that make maybe the criteria for hula competition, things like technique as far as footwork. So your foot technique, your feet technique. Hula is actually a very technical art form. So footwork is really important in hula because it's the foundation of your entire body. And it's the thing that is connecting us to our aina, or our land. And so hula comes from the land. That's the original hula dancer is nature. And all we did was try to use our body to, okay, the wind looks and feels like this, so I'm going to use my hand like that. And so our feet, our vavai, is what connects us to our land. And our land is where we gain all of our mana, or mana is our spiritual power, is from the land. So footwork is a big thing. So you're judged on footwork. Like the cleanliness of it, can it be recognizable? We have basic hula steps, so fundamental foundational steps. So we have over 45 different hula technical steps. So can the judge recognize those steps, or is there a step that you you created, and then if so, are you introducing a new step? Okay, you're going to give it a name, and you're going to let the judges know in the sheet, I created a step, this is what it looks like, so you know what to look out for. Hand motions, like does it do the hand motions, and does the expression interpret, is the interpretation there for the meaning of the poetry and then what you're seeing in front of you being danced? Does that align? Does it look like it comes from the same, is the dancer really showing what the mele or the music, the song is talking about? You're judged on costuming, you're judged on your adornments, your lei and all of your fresh foliage that you adorn your body with. You're judged on your language, Hawaiian language or pronunciation. We're judged on chanting, or a traditional Hawaiian way of chanting or vocalization. We're judged on our fact sheets, so we turn in fact sheets. And so we're judged on our ka'i and our ho'i, our entrance and exit. We're judged on our traveling or use of the stage area. We're judged on our expression. Yeah, there's a lot of criteria.
Just so much more than just looking pretty.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible. And do you have a section that's judged on a little bit of individuality, a little bit of your touch to it?
Yeah, so out of everything, interpretation is worth the most points. So even though you have technique and all these things, it's 1 out of 10, and then interpretation is 1 out of 15. So interpretation is like your ability as an individual to interpret what it is that you're feeling in the mele, and then there's like an overall score, and that overall score, so it's not really specifically said like this individual dancer's special something, but it's showcasing that overall impression, that overall score. Because a lot of times when you're competing for Miss Aloha Hula, for example, that's the best that each school has that year, right? It's the best girl, right? So everybody should technically be up there, right? But it's that certain something. Some people say you're born with it, you can't teach it. It's just that certain spark, that certain something that one dancer has where where the judges kind of put their pen down and just can't help but sit and watch.
So we gotta know, what is the Mahealani Mika signature? Do you have a specific move, or is there a certain way that you interpret the words?
I think it's my interpretation of it, because there's so many great dancers, so I believe it's my special individual interpretation of the mele. I am my truest self when I'm dancing. So I just want that to come across. And I think maybe that is what comes across, is how much I love hula. And maybe that's my special something, is that's what is felt. Because I really do believe like the impression that you make is by feel. It's when you touch somebody's heart, right? Like that's when you hit somebody and they're just like, you draw them into you, and that's not done by technique. And for me, I like to make people not even think to pay attention to that, because they're just like in my world, in what I'm doing. So they forget to look at my technique, or they can't even think about those things. Actually, in an audience, I love when there's babies in an audience, and I'll actually, as a little challenge for myself, I'll try to capture attention of babies, because they don't have any idea of technique. They don't even know really what hula is, but I can tell by if they stare at me the entire time, I can tell if, okay, I'm touching a soul. It's a soul connection that I'm making. It's not a...
That's your form of success. I love that human connection, that human touch.
Yeah.
That's great. And you've done that through your hula dancing, but now you've moved past that. You are the director and producer of Lei Aloha, the luau here at the Hyatt Regency. What is a luau, and what is your luau?
A luau, actually, a luau as thought of in today's terms, is everybody, it's synonymous with a dinner and a show, basically, a cultural show. But luau is actually more of a modern Hawaiian word that was created. The root of the word luau is actually a food. It's made from our kalo plant, or taro, because taro is the staple of our Hawaiian diet, and it's actually the leaves of the kalo, and it's cooked down into almost like a cooked spinach kind of texture, and that mixed with like coconut milk, that is actually luau. That's the word for, that's what luau means. And so we would have luau at our big feasts. Like our feasts are called aha'aina. Aha'aina is where it's just a huge, what people think of today as luau, but it's a huge feast, and we have all Hawaiian food. We have all these different dishes, a pig cooked in an underground oven, and then one of the dishes is luau, and that kind of got interpreted into today as being synonymous with a show. So over the creation of our tourism economy, I think here in Hawaii, really starting big in the 70s, where entertainment became a real big draw for something to do, for malihini or visitors here in Hawaii. And so the word luau got adapted because it's easier to say, it's luau, but everybody says luau, It's easier, I think, for visitors to say luau than to say aha'aina.
I'm not even going to try it.
And so anyway, that's a historical little adaptation of how we got to what people think of as luau today. And so nowadays, luau is a show. It's a, presentation, a way to entertain our visitors and do so through our cultural dances. Yes, and so here at Lei Aloha, most other luau are actually Polynesian review shows. So it's like a journey throughout all the Polynesian islands. You do like one or two songs from Samoa, one or two songs from Tahiti. And here at Lei Aloha, we're very intentional in making this all Hawaiian, all hula. So we can showcase our culture here in this place that we're in Hawaii.
Yes, that's what I loved about it, is I'm sure it probably wasn't as big as other luau's, but I was able to see your touch in it, and it was all hula dancing. And it was phenomenal. There was so many costume changes, men, women, there was some fire dancing going on. Each piece told such a great story, and I think that is the epitome of art, let alone what you're doing for the storytellings, is putting your touch on them. And it was just absolutely beautiful.
Mahalo, thank you.
But now it's time to get into a little bit.
Yeah.
How do you start your creation process? How do you begin hula dancing? We did talk a little bit, it is more centered around words, but how do you choreograph?
The subject matter is huge. It's vast, right? Hula is life. So we can take any experience that we're having in life, whether it's like a current event, something in the past, loss of love, any kind of life experience, right? And so kind of at the first, like going from the most general is what kind of story do I want to tell, right? What is this theme that I want to convey? And then, so I'll choose a theme first, whether it's, for example, for this one, Lei Aloha means Leis of Love. So I wanted to make sure to kind of use our show to educate visitors on things that they know of Lei, but the amount of depth of meaning behind what we use Lei for here in Hawaii is something they don't know. And so that's why I was like, you know what, I'm gonna create a show all about Lei, so I can use these different presentations of songs and dances to teach them about these deeper meanings of Lei. So, you know, I'll start with a theme, and then I'll hone it in on, okay, how am I gonna convey this story? And then from there, like for example, for this show, probably a lot of visitors don't know that every single island has a specific Lei that represents that island, you know? So, okay, I'm gonna tell the Lei story of each island. Okay, Hawaii Island has Lehua, Maui has Lokelani, Oahu has Ilima, Kauai has Mokihana. So I'll research, and then the research part comes in because hula is based on language. So going into research and finding all of these songs and poetry that pertain to this message. So, okay, I want to find every song about Lei that talks about each island, you know, gather all of that. And then comes the musicality part of it. So, okay, what's the point of this? Who's the audience, right? So we're here in Waikiki. So this audience, it's different than total local audience, like 100%. Or if I was doing this for competition, right, that'd be a different message in the end, because it's a different people.
Different target.
Different target. So these are all of like the parts of the creation process, you know, to narrow things down. And then from there, I'm like, okay, I want it to be upbeat or fast in the beginning, and then I want it to midway through the show slow down. I want to have, you know, and so what is the journey that I'm trying to take the audience on? And then from there, finding the mele that kind of fit, and then deciding in the history of hula, of Hawaii, do I want to take it as a throwback? Do I want people to hear old Hawaiian music influence in their sound? Or are we going to choose an artist that is current today in 2025? Yeah, and have that, you know, what is the what kind of ear do I want them to hear as far as what is Hawaiian music?
Yeah.
So that's part of it. And then I'll go into, okay, hone that down. Now I look at the exact text, and then I'll choreograph for the text first. And then once I have the choreography for the poetry, then I'll re-listen to, so I'll choreograph the whole thing without music at all at first, just to make sure I'm staying true to the meaning of the mele. And then from there, I'll take all of that, then do it with the music, and then I'll change things so that the musicality will be able to speak to me and help to adapt the choreography. You know, because you can take 5 different people, they can sing the same song, they'll all sing it 5 different ways. So you should, to me as a dancer, as an artist, that way, you should adapt how you're dancing according to who is delivering it, right, in the song. So that's the last part of it. And then from there, I'll kind of look at it and, okay, is this for a soloist? Is this for a line? Because in a line, okay, if I was dancing this by myself, I do all these things, you know, but okay, if 5 girls were dancing this, I think I'm going to change it up a little bit. And then I add in the different formation things, and I add in the little line tricks and all of that, you know, to add to that. So that's kind of like the creation process.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've also mentioned a little bit how hula is motivated or based on nature. Hula mimics nature.
Yes.
And what I thought was very interesting was a lot of the times it is focused on individual islands, because each island is so different. Can you explain the volcanic versus the garden?
Yeah, definitely.
I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah, so we have 8 islands, 8 main Hawaiian islands. We have a lot more in the whole archipelago, but hula is based upon our natural surroundings, right? That's what hula the point of hula, actually. So we're going to create hula according to our surroundings on that specific island. So all 8 of our islands are very different. So you take Hawaii Island, also known as Big Island, and that's where we have Kilauea, our active volcano. It's going off right now. I think it's episode 26 right now, and it's like 1,000-foot high fountains, and then there's fog. There's all of the smoke that comes out of that, and the people who live there, they have to pay attention to what's the volcano doing today. On Oahu, I don't think about what the volcano is doing today. It doesn't affect my daily life, so that's not something that's in my reality. So when I'm creating my movement, that's not influencing me. But if I lived on Hawaii Island, and I can hear the volcano, I can see the smoke, I can feel it in my lungs when the wind shifts a certain way, then naturally I'm gonna move differently. Right. So the hula that comes from Hawaii Island is a little more aggressive looking. It's a little more bombastic in its movement because it replicates the environment. Pele, our goddess of our volcano, very explosive eruptions. Volcanoes create their own weather system. So thunder and lightning happens very often around the volcano, So where thunder and lightning on Oahu happens because a storm moves in. It doesn't get created by our, Diamond Head or Lei Aloha is not erupting, right. So, and then the opposite ends of the island chain on Kauai, there hasn't been volcanic activity there. So everything is a little more soft, even down to the language. Like our V sound on Hawaii Island, they use V, like the hard V sound, more. On Kauai, all of the V turns into W because even the language is softer there. Yeah. So the movement's softer, maybe the hands are softer. So hula has many different styles depending on the root of the lineage of what island. Even on an island, you have different ahupua, or different little sections of land. So on one side where it's super dry, the people how they dance around that dry, very super hot, almost desert-like environment, their hula is different from on the north side of Kauai, that is the wettest spot on earth, Waialeale. So people in Waimea or Kekaha, Kauai is dry, and then people on the same island on the north side is constantly dealing with flooding and an overabundance of water. So how the hula happens differently, even on the same little island. So that's why hula is so, it really cannot be brought down to any kind of one style,
The inspiration from the islands, I find that absolutely fascinating, where it's the new aggressive volcanic versus the older flowing garden isle. Like I think that is so neat to be able to listen to the earth and to be able to create with the earth. While this is all happening, it's barefoot, which... Pardon my whiteness, but I cannot do that. Good on you there. And B, the one thing that I noticed when I saw Lei Aloha was everybody had this massive smile. But I know as a dancer myself that it is painful sometimes. Is the smiling a huge part of it?
Yes, expression is a huge part of hula. It's how it adds to how we're able to tell that story, right? So Hawaiian history, we didn't have a written language. So everything was by memorization and everything was orally passed on. So hula played such a huge role in record keeping, right? So if a battle happens, if a war broke out, hula would be created for that historical event and then retold every time it was danced in front of people. That's how we're like, this is what happened on this day. It was against these two islands or armies, and it looked like this. It felt like this was the result, So hula dancers were the history books, basically, of ancient Hawaii. And so expression is a tool that is necessary in our dance form in order to give the viewer the appropriate emotion of what was felt during that time, right? During that exact story that we're telling. So for Lei Aloha, we have specific lei that are given after a person passes away that's made out of a certain thing and you only give it during that time. I didn't put that in the show in its current version, so everything that's in the show right now is very celebratory and very about the beauty of the lei, the smell of it, the love part of it. So that's the expression that you see from beginning to end in the show, which is why, everybody has this like face, this like smile and this happiness to them. But if I were to have put in, then you would see a complete change in that expression. But that just shows you expression is a really important part of being able to tell our story through hula. Yeah.
Which is definitely one of your specialties. But it is very difficult to make it look easy, and your dancers just make it look flawless. It's beautiful.
Thank you. They're awesome. They're amazing.
And while you're creating a little bit, what inspires you? What gets your creative juices flowing?
For me, I love to create if it's something that I love to dance. I will sit there and just dance and dance and dance in my living room by myself, And so songs and things that move me to want to dance, that is kind of the first spark of what kind of ignites my inspiration. Because it's got to move me to, sometimes I choreograph things because I have to, so I'm like, okay. And I try to get into it, but maybe that wasn't something that I would have chosen that's not a song I would have chosen for myself. So that's a challenge for me because I have to actually try to find ways to get into that. So the best way for me to kind of start is to start dancing. I myself just start dancing around, I'll turn on the song or the music or whatever, and without researching it yet, I'll just see what my body starts to do in movement, and then how I respond to it. And then from there, sometimes then I'll go look into, let me see these actual words, the actual text to it. Like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this one, So sometimes I just move around, and that's the first best way for me to get inspired.
And as artists, we all have that day where we just don't have the dance in us. We don't have that creative itch. How do you overcome a creative block?
To be honest, I go out to nature. So I will just get in my car and drive around the island. I'll just go randomly park at a beach. I'll go park up in the mountains. I'll go, and I'll play the song over and over again while I'm driving. And then, I try to tune into certain places on the island that make me feel something while this song is playing. Like, okay, actually, I think, maybe this song is not about this area, but for some reason, for me right now, it's making me feel something here when I'm here in this particular area. Maybe this song is about the mountains, but I'm down by the ocean, and finally when I get there, I feel something with it, or it's a time of day too. Sometimes it can be, my name Mahealani is actually one of the names of the full moon phases in Hawaiian. So I'm like a total moon baby. So, on some full moon nights or whatever, sometimes not during the day, it's like, I'll go out by the sea cliff at night when the moon is at its fullest, or maybe on my moon night, the Mahealani moon night, and I'll just sit there with the mele playing with nobody around. I'll just listen to everything nature is giving me in silence, with just moonlight and the waves crashing on the cliffs and the, things like that. And then sometimes that'll just okay, and then, or sometimes I will put it away completely. I'll just put it away, and then I'll numb my mind, watch Real Housewives or something like that. Something where you're it just turns off your brain, it just turns off your brain, and I don't think about anything hula. And then I find that over time, my brain keeps working on it, it keeps working on it, and then suddenly I'm an idea will pop into my head or something. I'm like, and then, so sometimes it's that too, just walking away from it and not forcing it.
Sometimes you consciously just have to be I need a break.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, I know it's your private time.
No.
But I wish I could see you on the moonlight on the beach choreographing. Oh my gosh, what a joy that would be. Just to see you do your hula magic on the beach would just be incredible. But
yes,
we get to see your choreography at Lei Aloha.
Yes.
So thanks for that. And while you're working and going about your day, do you have any hobbies? And do they complement or contradict your craft?
No, I don't. No, because all of them kind of end up having to tie in. They all end up tying in, you know? Because, so for example, I sew. I love to create costuming. So like I did all the costumes for the show. For my school in Japan, I design majority of their costuming. And so sometimes that I suppose as a hobby, because I wouldn't consider myself a seamstress by any means. So I'm not skilled enough to do that or call myself that, but I'll sometimes just sketch out costume designs, you know, and things like that. I guess that could be a hobby. So that's actually one. So I find that singing, you know, I love singing, and that ends up tying into hula as well. So I feel like all the hobbies that I do have all end up a part of hula in some way.
And going a little further, would you recommend going to school or taking classes to build on hula? I know you do have your own school in Japan.
Yes. Definitely, because hula is such it's a discipline, and it's so vast and so huge. You can learn hula your whole entire life and still not know everything there is to know about hula. So definitely be a part of a school, you know, and there's many different schools and different schools of thought as far as, you know, what they want to perpetuate and things, but being a part of a hālau or a school is definitely, even till now, I train under a kumu still today. So even though I'm a kumu, I have a kumu that as a mentor who I'm still learning and training under, you know.
For any advice for somebody to get started, I have a question myself. I'm white. I'm not Hawaiian. Can I hula?
Yes. I mean, hula, it's not just for people Hawaiian by ancestry or by blood. I mean, I have a school in Tokyo, you know, where they're all Japanese. None of them are Hawaiian. And they love hula, you know. I feel like if the interest is there and the intention and the respect is there, then yes, definitely you can. There's the best way to start is to find a class, you know. There's different levels of it. Like you can go into a class that's really just kind of for fun, and it's not, you don't dive super deep into the commitment, but it's a great intro into learning hula. And then from there, you kind of do that for a little while, and you're like, no, I think I want to keep doing this, and I think I want to challenge myself and learn more. And then you can find a school or a hālau that's like a little more locked in and disciplined, you know. Yeah.
It was fascinating when we were talking earlier about the different cultures and learning hula in different cultures, and Hawaiians just kind of have this natural flow, rhythm, a little bit of that hip swaying. And then you have a school in Japan where they're a little more stiff. And then you've also done stuff with like the Latin community where you almost need to rein them back a little bit from their emotion. So it was very fascinating. We don't need to go too far into that, but it was just very fun to talk about. But I want to know, how do you handle criticism? Have you had anybody come up to you and just say like, I don't get it?
Yeah, well, here, you know, one of the challenges with creating a show that is in Waikiki and in the tourism industry is the expectation of visitors when they come and they've seen decades of this Polynesian review show, you know. So sometimes they come and they want that. They want a little bit of Tahitian. They want someone fire knife dance. They want the, you know, and so at the end they're like, where was the Tahitian drums? You know, where was the, and so in a way, that's a criticism. But I expect that because that's specifically the mission of our show, is to start to break that stereotype and create more spaces. We're in Hawaii, so you should be able to find an all hula Hawaiian show on every corner, you know, not have us be the only one. Right. We're in Hawaii. This is our culture. So, for example, I've spent a lot of time down in Tahiti. In Tahiti, they don't welcome you with a Hawaiian dance. They welcome you with their Tahitian dance. So only here in Hawaii do we do a mix of all of Polynesia, you know? So in a way, that kind of criticism, I expect that, and it's just a opportunity for education, you know, in a nice aloha nudged way. Just be like, oh yes, this isn't a Polynesian luau. We actually focus on, you know. And I think criticism is great I always consider the source. If it's people in our hula community, cultural practitioners, I welcome the criticism, because not everybody needs to like exactly what I do or my style. Some people, some kumu or teachers maybe want to keep hula not at all for visitors, but just want to keep it, for our local community, or just like how some kumu don't believe in competing, so it's fine. I always consider the source of where the criticism comes from, and then I take that, because I get it. Maybe some people don't think having a show for tourists should be something that we focus on, and so, and maybe some people would have presented this theme in a different way, because they're cultural practitioners as well, and choreographers and teachers, and so I'm like, okay, yeah.
That's got to be difficult to try and base a show on entertainment, because that's where the money is, and that's why people are coming to see the show. But what you are trying to do is to show people that traditional Hawaiian dance, and if anything, just start a conversation.
Yes.
I absolutely love that. So thank you for pushing that and showing us that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And now it's time to clear the air. Are there any misconceptions about hula? And I've got a million. It's just coconut shells and grass skirts, and you're just going to the music. There's no planned choreography. Oh, look at this serious face. Oh, geez. Hit me. What do you got?
Well, no, those are misconceptions. One big misconception is that hula's easy. Because it's graceful, or because hula runs a gamut of different ways of styles of moving our body, so it's not all soft and great, but hula is not easy. Hula is actually really difficult, and it takes a lot of discipline and commitment and time and training to be able to make it look easy. So we're always taught as dancers, you shouldn't look like you're trying so hard, you should make it look easy, and the best dancer that you can be is one that makes hula look easy. And so, but it's actually very difficult. So that's one misconception. Another one, yes, the grass skirt things. We make pa'u or skirts out of all different material, because we make all of our things traditionally from natural fibers in nature. So some of them grass, it's actually the bark of a tree called hālau. It's not just to look a certain way. Everything that we wear has a meaning to why we chose that color, why it's a certain style. Hula originally started out to praise our Hawaiian gods and goddesses. And there's actually a goddess of hula specifically. Oh. And the goddess of hula is the same goddess as the goddess of the forest. So that's why we take forest things and put it on ourselves when we dance. So our goddess's name is Laka, and she is the goddess of hula and of the forest. So hula people are forest people are hula people, and we are caretakers of the forest. So that's why you'll see us have always adornments in our hair, or around our, a lei po'o around our head, our neck, hands and feet. We're taking Laka in her form of the forest, adorning it on our bodies, so that when we are dancing, we are a physical manifestation of her forest, So one misconception is, it's not just for looks, everything. It all has a spiritual meaning, and that is the root of why we do things that has adapted to modern day over time. But it all comes from a root of a spiritual practice.
Going outside your craft a little bit, what's next for the world of hula? Are we going to start to see some people smashing different styles of hula? Is it just going to maintain its consistent cultural meaning?
What's next for hula is, hula is always evolving, because it's a living art form and a living culture. And so hula has always evolved, and we have, I think, like in any kind of cultural art form, you have like your sticklers for tradition, and then you have your push the envelope kind of creators. And so it's the same in hula. We really do need both, because hula naturally evolves as we evolve as people, but we need to make sure we have those practitioners who are like, no, we are not changing this. Hula should be this way, like how it's always done. We need that grounding, and we need it balances, and then there's everybody in between. So hula will continue to evolve. Having awana is our modern dancing of hula, which you see in the show. Majority of it is awana, and then you have a section of traditional hula or hula kahiko. Awana is a innovation of hula. So awana is introduced foreign string instruments like guitar, ukulele, bass, piano. Those are all introduced instruments to Hawaii. So this type of hula and song, Hawaiian music, didn't exist in ancient Hawaii. It innovated into that. So hula will continue to do that while holding a stronghold of the intention. The intention of hula, I think, will always remain the same.
Yeah. Always evolving, though.
Yeah, it'll always evolve because we're evolving as Hawaiians, Like a Hawaiian in 2025 is not the same Hawaiian as in 1975, Our parents in 1975, we mahalo them, we thank them because they really honed in on what does it mean to be Hawaiian. We need to bring all these things back. We lost the language. Let's revive. Let's do that. We got to grow up feeling more secure, knowing what it means to be Hawaiian. So then we could think about other innovative ways to showcase who we are as Hawaiians, because we weren't trying to figure out what that meant like our parents in 1970. We grew up knowing who we are and feeling a little more comfortable in that. And so as we evolve, all of our art form in male Hawaii or Hawaiian culture is going to evolve, including hula. Yeah.
Evolving but traditional.
Yes, rooted.
And what's next for you personally? You have Nahe Aloha, you have your school in Japan. There also seems to be a couple personal developments happening soon.
Yes, I'm actually hapai. I'm pregnant, so with my first baby. So I'm excited about that, like being a mom, and I'm actually really excited about how that'll impact me. I do believe it'll impact my art and my craft. How could it not? Because it'll change my life. So I'm excited to see how being a mother opens up my heart in a different way, and maybe different types of creation will come out of that in addition to new life. So that's my next thing that I'm honed in on and focusing on, concentrating on, and then continuing to learn, because I eventually would like to open hālau or school here in Hawaii. So I have my hālau in Tokyo. I haven't opened up a hālau here in Hawaii yet. So that's something I would like to work on doing eventually.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, also, I feel like when this episode comes out, you will have your baby, so congratulations
Mahalo,
on that.
Thank you.
And where can we see your work?
Actually, it's all over YouTube, actually. So if you look up Mahealani Mika or Miss Aloha Hula 2010, my hālau in Tokyo's name is Kilohana, so you can also Google that. And then you can come see, the production here at the Hyatt Regency Waikiki called Lei Aloha. And you can actually book tickets on naleialoha.com and come and see us over here so you can check out everything that, all of this creation. And
absolutely. It was an absolute phenomenal show, and I can't emphasize how important it is to this Hawaiian culture, and I can't thank you enough for inviting me there.
Mahalo.
You also have an Instagram, too.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You can follow me at Mahealani_Mika.
I can't thank you enough for joining me and piquing my interest. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
I would just say mahalo for what you do, because just your questions, and they're such in-depth questions, and I love it because I can tell it is from a performer and an artist, and I can tell just by your questions and how well thought out they are. They're not just typical questions, and I appreciate that. So as an artist, I really appreciate that. So mahalo for your work in what you're doing.
One last thing, what does the world need to know about hula?
I think what the world needs to know about hula is that it is deep, it is spiritual, and it is rooted here in Hawaii. And please let it pique your interest in being exposed to more hula and how deep it actually is, if you allow yourself to not come with preconceived notions of what it is, maybe because you've seen it somewhere on a movie or something, but to come and actually come to Hawaii, be open and let hula really impact you. You know, I think that's what I would love everyone around the world to know about hula, is the beauty and depth of hula and how impactful it is if you come with an open heart and let that happen.
Well, again, thank you for teaching me and showing me your work and giving me this incredible lei. It's been so hard to pay attention because I'm smelling this and I'm just like, what was my next thought? Anywho, I do like to end with one last question.
Okay.
If you could excel at any other craft besides hula, what would you want to do?
Oh, you know, another craft, two crafts actually. Singing. I would love to work on musicianship and being able to play an instrument and sing really well. And sewing. I would actually love to be able to, you know, develop my skills in creating fashion.
Well,
those are two things.
Coming from somebody from the musical theater world, I think we might be able to see some singing during hula on stage.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
Okay.
And again, congratulations on your baby.
Mahalo.
And thank you to all of my peakers out there. Please let me know if you know of any special or unique artists or art forms you think I should explore. I'm currently in Waikiki, Honolulu, Hawaii, and can't wait to see where Pique My Interest takes me next. Remember, creativity comes from the heart. Push yourselves, be kind to each other. I'm Scoob Decker, and thank you for helping me pique my interest.
This episode was produced by Lizzie Webb. Be sure to follow on social media to stay updated on all the adventures into art and creativity, as well as all of the past Pique My Interest featured artists. If you like, please leave a review. Send us a message. Tell us what you think. Pique My Interest is for you, the peakers. Cheers to creativity, and I hope your interest is piqued.